아열대 작물도 노지에서 키울 수 있는 그날이 오지 않겠나 하는.
Not every farmer is so ready to embrace change like Mr. Huang. But as climate change advances, more are likely to find that they have no choice but to join the global fight against the climate emergency.
The daily number of infections was going up from 100 a day to 1,000 a day.
It was very difficult to catch up in terms of the contact tracing of all of these individuals.
These patients got this virus from nowhere.
Singapore has seen an alarming spike in cases of COVID-19.
The virus was outgunning the contact tracing team. We realized that we had to take a different tack.
Contact Tracers, Sunday on CNA.
There's 300 unreturned trays. I'm showing Singaporeans just how bad our tray return problem is. Nothing seems to work, not even a tray deposit system. Could this be the solution? Return your tray. Food trays. How do we solve the problem? A two-part special on Talking Point. Sunday on CNA.
Every day, the financial world goes through dramatic rise and falls. We'll track the biggest market movers and show you where the opportunities lie. Get the experts' take on the performance of key indices. Plus all the analysis to help you understand forces driving global economies. The daily business news you need. Only on CNA. This segment is brought to you by Xeon Corporation.
Phenomenal. It's really the first Chinese tech titan to straddle this global world. There is this obsession of using image to record and pass on memories.
People freaked out. They were stunned that this was even a product that was possible to produce. It was, as a technological achievement, spectacular.
Ahead of their time. Tuesday on CNA.
In the Philippines, its longest mountain range, the Sierra Madre, is suffering degradation. Efforts are underway to restore the forest cover, but there's a long way to go. Meantime, heavy downpour will spell a disaster for the people living in the surrounding regions.
The majestic Sierra Madre, Philippines' longest mountain range. It serves as a barrier in the country's northeast coast and reduces the force of typhoons from the Pacific Ocean before they reach settlements in the main northern island of Luzon. But even as a key biodiversity area with more than a dozen national parks, forest reserves and protected landscapes, the Sierra Madre has at least hundreds of hectares, equivalent to over 1,700 football fields, degrading each year.
We're here near the border of two watersheds critical to flood control in Metro Manila and its neighboring areas. This watershed, called the Upper Marikina River Basin, serves as a catch basin for rainwater. Now, the more degraded it is, meaning the less trees and biodiversity, the less capacity it has to hold water.
Forest rangers say reckless human activities like illegal logging and quarrying are rampant in this watershed in the Sierra Madre. Other activities like slash and burn farming and charcoal making are prohibited in a protected landscape like this. Forest Ranger Ernie is keeping his watchful eyes on such activities. He works for the Masungi Geo Reserve, a conservation project run by a private foundation.
Marami po kaming mga nakitang mga ebidensya na pinutol, mga bago pa po yun. Ayun, nang sabi nila sa amin, yun daw ay galing pa sila ng kabilang barangay. Kaya po sila nandito kasi nga po kailangan daw nila ng pera. Ngayon, ang sabi naman po namin, yung ginagawa po ninyo, masisib nga po yung pamilya nyo, pero marami pong mga tao ang madadamay dahil po yan sa kagagawaan din ng pagpuputol nyo. Dahil katulad na lang po yan, marami po sa atin na dumadaan ng mga bagyo, mga sakuna.
Ernie chose this job, he says, largely because of his experience with disasters in his home region of Bicol, where a typhoon destroyed their family home in 2009. Storms most frequently make landfall on Bicol. But research by the Harvard Humanitarian Initiative in late 2020 shows 38% of residents in Bicol have never heard of climate change, the highest in the Philippines. Climate activist Yem Sanyo says it's crucial to raise awareness on climate change.
It's always hit by extreme typhoons, intense typhoons, and it's quite a puzzle for us. It's surprising that many people in the Bicol region are not aware of climate change.
The Philippines is hit by an average of 20 typhoons each year, and the need for constant rebuilding and rehabilitation after each typhoon season creates a cycle of poverty for the most vulnerable. A report by the Institute for Economics and Peace in 2019 says the Philippines is the country most at risk from the climate crisis. Places like the Upper Marikina River Basin and the Sierra Madre could serve as carbon sinks to combat climate change. But conserving forests is not as simple as planting trees. Conservation also means identifying and prosecuting violators of environmental laws. Conservationist Anne Dumalyang has faced multiple death threats from land grabbers in the privately run conservation project Masui Geo Reserve within the watershed. She tells me about the time she confronted 8 armed guards who were stationed in an illegally barricaded area in the Geo Reserve. But she knew the stakes were too high for her to crouch down in fear.
A retired police general tried to fence off and take possession over portions of the forest land and the reforestation site. His president came over here, tried to talk to us, and basically said that once we go past a certain point, he's not going to hesitate to hunt us down and to kill.
Downstream areas like the flood-prone Marikina City and Metro Manila benefit from the Upper Marikina watershed. But climate change and poor urban planning, along with the watershed's degraded natural ability to hold storm water and sink greenhouse gases, lead to worsening floods.
The entire ground floor of this rental home was submerged in flood water on November 12, 2020, as Typhoon Vamco struck this area in the riverside city of Marikina in Metro Manila. Water level rose from knee-deep to 2 meters high in a matter of 3 hours, destroying valued possessions and homes and displacing residents for days. Typhoon Vamco alone claimed 100 lives. This resident in Marikina City, Jean Flores, had to evacuate her entire family from their small rental space that was completely submerged in flood water, sleeping for 2 nights at their relatives' jeep parked on an elevated road. Bali, ito nga po, halos yung baha, ito, umabot po dyan sa kisame. Talagang sinagad niya yan. Yan, dyan po, ayan, halos sinayos pa nga namin ito bago sana magpasko, kaya lang wala. Umabot po dyan. Hanggang dito sa amin, ito. Yan, taga sinipsip yan, hindi namin talaga inasahan. Ito,
Jean says her family lost $600 in possessions, an amount his husband, a maintenance worker, would take 6 months to earn. It is for people like Jean Flores that environmental advocates put their lives on the line.
things that seemingly happen in the forest are interconnected with lives of people in the city. So everyone has this idea that when you are, you can be in the city or you can be in the forest. You can be in a rural area. But you can't really put these things in bubbles. We're always in nature. We're always a part of nature. We can never isolate ourselves from it. Whatever we do to it will one way or another impact us.
Climate change and the visible destruction of Philippine forests can make one feel like environmental conservation is a losing battle. But the battle is fought in the strong belief that human lives are intrinsically linked to the state of the natural world.
A poor man's stew. Mee Siam Indian style. And a supper spot called car park.
The car park.
So that is like the place.
Singapore's first topless cabaret, jazz bar, and nightclub all rolled into one.
You see these girls with next to no clothes on.
Because they're having a child live.
Home to Singapore's first supermodel sisters and our very own Paris-trained Christian Dior outfits.
Psychedelic when it was a hippie era. Look at this Daisy print.
That's part of the rebellion culture, you know.
We didn't know what virginity meant.
There's something about Orchard. Starts 7th February on CNA.
Right now we're going to have a short role play. Tell us a thank you, right?
Thank you, Jihao.
Tell us what?
Thank you.
Thank you only, thank you only.
If you need to take photograph of strangers, you need to ask them permission. She doesn't like it. Yeah, she doesn't. You better delete.
Workable. Wednesday on CNA.
Hello, the headline news this hour. India has suspended internet services in the border towns of Delhi, where farmers have been camped out in a months-long protest against the government's agriculture reforms. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says the government's offer to suspend its proposed laws still stands. Pro-military demonstrations have erupted in several major cities in Myanmar. The crowds are calling on the government and the Election Commission to resolve complaints of fraud. The rallies come days ahead of Myanmar's new parliament sitting next week. Singapore will suspend reciprocal green lane arrangements with Malaysia, South Korea and Germany as COVID-19 infections spike in those countries. These arrangements allow short-term travelers to enter Singapore on an official 14-day itinerary after testing negative for COVID-19. The suspension will be in place for 3 months before it's reviewed. And that's the latest from the CNA newsroom.
When having fun, like all of a sudden, like this bird just came, like look at us, like everyone.